Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my ReCore walkthrough. We are once again back in it, exploring, and this time we're going to go to mission 13, the Brood Hive. So I think this is going to be a combat dungeon, which they're usually short, but they involve a lot of fighting. So it's an interesting trade-off. And it's just down here, which is nice and convenient. So to get into this place, you need 4 cores, and I have 17, so I can definitely do it. And you need to be, what was that, level 4? Which means I'm way higher than that, so I should have a very easy time in this, depending on what kind of dungeon it is. You can hear the soundtrack kicking up. Soundtrack is one of the better aspects of this game. As we push forward and trigger the spawn of the fast travel machine, and then we're in. So immediately starts off with some popcorn enemies. You'll notice Seth is firing at them with his slow bullets. I was kind of disappointed with the enemies' projectiles on this game. This is nothing to do with, bad game design or anything. This is just my personal preference. I would have preferred them to be maybe slightly larger and move with less tracking, but be more of them, so you feel like you're dodging bullets in almost like a shmup type game. Because if you've seen footage of the new Nier Automata, however you want to say it, in that game it looks like you're being assailed by orbs of energy, and it looks really cool. And in this game you can double jump and boost, so you could have had intricate webs of bullets coming towards you while you were fighting, and you could have been jumping and dashing through them, and it could have been really intensive and interesting, but it seems like that's just not what they were looking for, and I kind of thought it was going to be that way when I originally saw footage of this game. Because if you follow me on Twitter, which I recommend that you do, and it's not to feed my ego or anything, it's just that I give a lot of information that's very valuable to the channel, and if you're new to the channel and you're excited and you want to know everything and see everything and not miss a thing, then that's the best place to get all the information. But when we were leading up to this game, I was mentioning on there quite a lot that I was very excited for it, because to me, when I saw, the intricate platforming and the dashing and the boosting, it reminded me of, the old school platformers, and a lot of old school action platformers, they had really good souls, and I know that's a very strange way to explain it, but I think it works. Because think back to a game where you platformed in, and there was combat in it, from either your childhood or whenever you played them, but generally I'm thinking PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 or N64 era. There's your eras to look back on. You can use GameCube if you want, you can be a cool kid. There's a game there that comes to mind when I ask you to do that gives you that feeling inside that reminds you why you love games. Everybody has one. This is me getting frozen as well, that's pretty dangerous with the electricity. And you can think of one, and the reason why it's so resonant to you and the reason why it comes so strikingly to your mind is because of how great it was. And it doesn't even have to be, objectively, critically or commercially a massive success or a big thing. It can be a game, like, does anybody remember Chameleon Twist on the N64? Those were games that always got reviewed quite poorly. I never played them, and I probably should just to see if they warranted those reviews, but they were just the kind of... They were always trying to chase the heels of Rare and Mario, and they never quite made it, but I know a few people that quite liked those games and had a lot of fun with them, and if you were to ask them, they would say, that they were quality. Like, can you remember Mischief Makers? That's another one where it got reviewed quite poorly, but a lot of people I knew really liked it. And everyone's going to have that one that they like and they remember, and you remember it because it stands out as just, it was fun. And it was fun without needing to be anything else. And that's what I was looking forward to with this, but I was hoping for a little bit of that extra difficulty, because if you know anything about Mega Man, they get quite hard, those games, they can get really, really difficult. And even Mighty Number 9, I think there's a level or two on that game where the difficulty ramps up and reminds you that, yo dog, we used to make challenging games. So I was hoping for a lot of these things to come together and make this just this crazy game. Like, I was hoping in a lot of ways for like a Lost Planet-esque experience of a game that is obviously not top tier, but it's goofy and interesting enough to keep you playing, and it has enough things that you might like, because I'm a Lost Planet fan, and when I say that I mean Lost Planet 1. Everything after that can go away. I did not like the sequels at all. They ruined them for me, but that first game was quite a special game for me personally, because it was one of the only games I had on the Xbox when I first got it. And I couldn't just get, you know, a million games, because at that point, I was at college and I didn't have a job. So you just played, you know, you didn't have the resource or the money to buy every game. And I didn't know about rental services that were efficient enough and didn't rip you off. So at that point, when you got a game, you played the shit out of it, because that's the only game you would have for a while. So I might not have liked that game had I got it nowadays, but because I got it at that moment, you know, I really, really appreciated it. And who knows, maybe if I'd have got ReCore at that point, I would have appreciated this too. But I think that this game does the fundamentals wrong. And I think when a game does the fundamentals wrong, that's when it really hurts the overall experience. Because if there was just a couple of parts of this that you don't like, I don't think it would be half as polarizing as it is. Like, everybody can think of an example of a game that they love that has a part that they hate. Everybody has these. I could mention so many on so many games I enjoy, because they all have a moment like that. And these, of course, have nothing to do with the standard level of design. These are generally a personal thing. You know, I really don't like on-rail sections. I really don't like driving sections. I really don't like being timed. Whatever it is, everybody's got one. But that's okay, because that's just one of those moments where they tried something different and it didn't quite pay off. Whereas fundamentals have to pay off. That's kind of in the name. If it's going to work, it has to be fundamentally sound. And this dungeon is not boss or traversal. This is an adventure dungeon, guys. So if you're wondering why I'm running around and there's areas to see and there's platforming and shooting, it's because this is an adventure one. Now, these are probably the best kind of dungeon for the ReCore experience, and I think that they should have probably been mandatory, because the gameplay here, I think, is spot on. It's fun, it's simple, there's platforming, there's combat, there's enough difference between them to keep it engaging. This game does a lot of right things, and the dungeons, aside from the perma-loop of death bullshit and questionable load times, the dungeons are not a problem. They're one of the best things to see in this. If you're going to do a guided tour of ReCore, you have to be shown some of these, because they will definitely sway your feelings if you're having a bad impression. It's just everything outside the dungeons is quite questionable in a lot of ways. Is this timed? Is that why I think it's timed, yeah, and there's just a treasure chest. Hopefully it's some good loot. But the formula here works, you know, the formula is definitely something that I think can be a thing. Because I feel, ooh, frame rate, please. I feel like this is kind of the Borderlands that I wanted. And there's people going, oh, Chris, how do you say this? Because they really like Borderlands. And, you know, I liked Borderlands. I felt that it could have been a bit more of what it was. And I think Borderlands 2 fixed a lot of my issues with Borderlands 1, and they made a really, really great game. But to me, it was all the same, wasn't it? You know, Borderlands was one of those games where it's very easy to kind of feel like you were doing the same thing all the time, because you were. And I think because this is third person and it has the platforming, I think it diversifies it enough. But it's the overworld, the sandy overworld, the chests, the loot aspect of it. You know, an open world that doesn't really add that much to the game, that has incremental dungeons every so often. It definitely feels like a Borderlands to me, but Borderlands nailed its fundamentals, and that's why that game has gone down as being a great game. If this game had a little bit more Borderlands in it, I think it would be a better game. Look at that, you see that? Nearly half my life off of a bunch of popcorn enemies. You know, you really can't sleep on the damage in this game, because if you do, you'll die. But the game does such a poor job of killing you at times, you feel almost impervious. Like this creature here. This creature's going to fly around, and you're going to shoot the cores of it, and then it's going to fly into you. And the only difficulty you're going to have here is locking onto the boss, because there's all the flying shitters in the air. And I don't know if I've mentioned, but the lock-on in this game is a nightmare. It's perfect when you're shooting one opponent, but when you want to change your target and you want to get a little bit fancy, it will look at the exact opposite of who you want it to every single time, and it's incredibly frustrating. But in this dungeon, the time limit did not give a core, the yellow key did, and the beacons, the switchers, gave a treasure chest, so we got both prismatic cores and we don't have to worry about it. Which means after this, we're going to have opened up the Warren and we can progress onwards, and I can introduce you to the fun of poison in dungeons. But once again, the dungeon's fun, it's got some cool mechanics, there's some platforming, some environmental hazards, there's some shooting. It's ReCore at its finest. And it's just a shame that you have to jump through so many hoops and hurdles to get to that, you know? And it could have come so naturally. Did I mention I really like the design of the prismatic cores? I appreciate it's just a prism showing you all the spectrum of light, but I think it looks sweet. And I don't want somebody to come to this video and think, oh, he's just shitting on this game. Because it's not my intention. I get no pleasure shitting on a game, guys, I don't. You know, sometimes it's funny, and I'm guilty of it, but when it comes to really looking, really being critical, I don't want to say the game is weak here, the game is weak there. I want it to be strong in the places that I'm mentioning. Because if it was, it would be such a better experience. And at the end of the day, this random lady I've pulled in here from the 50s, no, at the end of the day, it's about enjoyment. That's what games are. They were conceived to steal money and give us a fun time. And if you're not having a fun time, they're stealing your money.